All right, friends, let's jump in and start putting together our theater outlines, okay? Some of this is going to be utilizing the existing classes in our Vectorworks file as opposed to the classes that are available to you that have imported. So that'll be something for you to keep in mind. So I'm now going to pick up my two layers that I have and I'm going to drag them all the way down to the very bottom of my stack, okay? And that's because I'm going to start working in my theater floor plan layer because we're building the theater floor plan. And I'm going to do that on top of the X plan so I can see what I'm doing as I am tracing, okay? So I am leaving myself in gray snap others, so I can still see it, but it's not as solid as the lines I'm about to start drawing, okay? So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna take a little peek around and we have stage main, okay? That's the class I wanna be drafting in. So I am going to move my check mark to that stage main class, okay? And that is going to help organize my drawing both in the classes and on the layers. So I'm in theater floor plan and I'm in stage main as my drafting layer, okay? I'm going to start with the deck of the stage, right? So this piece here is the actual floor of the stage. And then the tool I'll be using mostly today is going to be our polyline tool, which is keyboard shortcut 5. So a polyline allows us to create a shape that includes both straight lines and arcs, and that's going to help us out in this case because you'll see that this floor has both this curved segment and also a bunch of straight lines. We're going to start with just the baseline shape of the floor, okay? So we have a couple of options, right? One would be to do the whole outside of the room. In this case, I'm actually gonna just do the stage floor itself. And you'll notice over here, there's a little bit of a weird situation, right? Because this wall doesn't actually continue on the other side. Because of that, I'm gonna actually start over here on this corner and then work my way back around, okay? So now I just click to connect dots, okay? So that's my first click. I'm tracing over this line. When I get to a point here, which has an arc, I'm gonna switch to a different mode, okay? I'm gonna switch to this one right here, which is the point on arc mode, where we have our starting point, we pick the point that it passes through, and then we pick our ending point. And in this case, when I switch into this mode, I'll now click on the center, which is the midpoint, and then I'll click on the arc end right there, and now I have traced that front edge. You will do this a whole bunch more when we do the seating sections out there. So now I can continue my way around, all right? I gotta figure out how to get to this spot, and I'm gonna use my smart points in snapping to do that. So I hover over this, get a little red box around it, and now I will get that to align, right? So when you hover over something, you get those invisible alignment points using smart points. That has allowed me to end that shape in that spot, which is gonna actually help us out later when we come to do our walls and our doors. Okay, so I come right back around to where I started. The whole thing has gotten solid, you can see that now, and that is our stage deck, okay? We're gonna now actually extrude this shape, and we're gonna extrude it in the negative direction so that we have at the 0 level of our file is our stage floor. Everything else will be relative to that 0 point. And that's because as I'm drafting scenery, I wanna be able to just set things on the 0 line. I don't wanna have to like raise them up to be sitting on top of the stage as I draw. So I'm gonna start with this shape. I need to now go find out how tall that stage is above any of the lower part of the floor. And to do that, I'm gonna come over to my section view, right? And I will just grab a dimension tool and do a quick measurement, right, of the height of our stage, and it's 2'6" right? So that is the amount that I will be subtracting down below the given stage height, okay? That's the lowest point visible here, so that's where I'm gonna go with this stage deck, okay? So I'm gonna now select it, extrude, and I'm gonna extrude it negative 2 foot 6 inches, okay? So now when I hit Shift C, you'll see the stage is below the drawing at this point, but it does seat itself nicely into that box and it gives us that solid that we're looking for, okay? Command 5 takes me back into top plan view. Okay, so that's our initial stage level, okay? So we've got our stage using our polyline tool, extruding it down below. The next step is going to be walls, okay? And we first want to just come in and get some quick measurements on the width of these walls, just so we know what we're working with, right? So that's a 9-inch wall, interior wall. Over here, we have an 11.5-inch wall. And our wall tool is going to allow us to do walls that are these different dimensions, right? So it looks like our exterior, our main outside walls are 11.5 inches, both left and right. And then we have some sort of interesting jogs in the walls out here. But they're all these 9-inch, or in this case, let's see what this would be. Let me measure this one here, 6-inch wall, okay? So these are all now our next game, right, is going to be to set up our wall style and draw in these walls. So you're going to go to the little house. See him? There he is, building shell, right? You'll have a wall tool. We'll get to other parts of it later. This is your wall tool, okay? There are, in this drawing, not any wall styles. So we're gonna start by creating a couple of wall styles that are gonna help us in this task, okay? And you'll also see over here, these are your control lines. We'll probably switch to this control line, but let's see what happens as we progress. We wanna start with our, let's start with our 9-inch wall that we have back here along the back wall, and we'll work our way around the room, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the pencil and the wrench. That's gonna open up wall preferences, and we are now going to create our first wall style. I'm actually gonna do it as a component, and we're gonna say new. We're gonna just give it a name that we don't need to worry too much about because we're gonna actually name it later, but let's name it a 9-inch exterior wall. And the style is going to actually be a hatched fill, right? And the fill we're looking for is a diagonal line, right? Because that is going to give us the fill. Let's find a diagonal hatch. Maybe in our ANSI hatches, yeah. I guess cast iron. Let me make sure there's not any that are more efficient. Yeah, no, we're gonna pretend we're cast iron for just a second. Okay, so that's our diagonal hatch, right? The texture is none at this point. We may include a texture at a later time, but for now, we have this hatch. Our pen thickness will be determined by our regular pen, or we can set it to something. Typically, because this is an exterior wall, you want a heavier pen, right? So that it's clear that this is a very solid object. And then once you're done, you'll go all the way down to the bottom and it'll be visible on your screen even though it isn't on mine. And you'll click OK. What's your problem? Oh, a thickness! 9 inches, obviously. It was like, what is the thickness, dude? And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so there's our first wall style. So now I have this 9-inch wall, and we're going to save this as a wall style, and we're going to call it a 9-inch exterior wall so we can get it again when we need it. Okay, and we say, okay. All right, so I now have 9-inch exterior wall is a wall type. I'm going to trace this line using this control line, okay? And I'm gonna have my 9-inch wall. There it is, great. Perfect. Okay, so that's my first wall. Now I'm going to come in and make this 11.5 inch wall type to start at the end of that wall and go down this edge. So we're gonna go back into this pencil wrench situation. We're gonna convert it to unstyled. We're gonna come in here and edit it, right? And we're gonna say it's an 11.5 inch exterior wall. We're gonna change its thickness to 11.5, all right? Everything else stays the same. We click OK, right? And then we save this as our 11.5 inch exterior wall, okay? While I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and create that 6-inch wall for when I need it. So same process, convert to unstyled, edit that cup, change this to 6 inches, change this name to 6 inches, okay, and save this as a 6-inch wall. Okay, so now I have my 3 wall types that I can choose from, and I'm gonna come in here and choose this 11.5 inch one, okay? I'm gonna pick up at the end of that existing wall. I'm gonna come straight down, right? And you'll notice we have, if I hold shift, right, we'll be able to trace straight on down this wall, and it stays pretty solid all the way until it gets a little weird down here. So let's just come to this endpoint, double click, and have that wall, okay? It automatically has joined it to the previous wall for us, okay? We're gonna now do the same thing from the other end, okay? And this wall does a little weird jog right here. So I'm actually gonna pick it up right there. For the purposes of our demonstration, these walls are less important to me, right? Because you're not gonna see them on the inside of the theater. So I'm gonna just pick up here, even though there's this little section that's of a narrower wall. We can come back in and figure that out later. And I'm gonna come all the way up and hold shift again to make sure. And as I come and click while that red wall, see how it's highlighted in red? That will allow me to actually connect to that piece of wall, okay? So now I have my walls. They are not exactly what I want, but they are very, very close. So I'm gonna hit my X key to get my cursor back and delete these little dimensions that I threw all over the place, because now they're just kind of garbage. You will come in and negotiate this section yourself without me. I believe in you, you can do it, okay? So figure out how to do all of these little segments of wall. You will want to bring this 6-inch wall all the way over until it intersects with this existing wall. And that's gonna be important in terms of allowing you to insert a door, okay? So this wall does actually need to extend all the way to that edge. Good luck, have fun. All right, so now we have our 3 walls. I'm gonna hit Shift C. We're gonna notice something. Very short theater, not the correct height, right? Very, very short, not normal, right? Relative to what we are up to, okay? So we will need to determine what that wall height should be. And I'm gonna find that again over on my section view. I will grab my little measuring tape, my dimension tool. I'm gonna come all the way up to these ceiling beams here at the top, and that is the overall height of the space, 27'6". Now that I know that height, I can come in here and select these 3 walls I've just drafted and change their height in their object info to 27'6" as drawn in the section view. Okay, so 27 feet, 6 inches, enter. Now when I Shift C into a 3D view, it is a tall theater and not a tiny stage, okay? All right, so now I'm back in top plan view. I'm gonna save this file with my 3 wall styles in it, with my stage deck, and you are going to go ahead and complete this upstage section of the wall. And then we'll come back and I'll talk to you about doors.